Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And I know it's been a while since I did a video on this channel, but some of you might have seen my announcement about the video of an actual DCC play session on Bill the Elf's channel, so if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. Anyways, today I'm doing a review of Strange Tales of Songling, a horror RPG inspired by Chinese ghost stories. And this is a game, a complete game that is made by Bedrock Press. And I want to point out at the very beginning of the video that Bedrock is also the publisher of Arrows of Indra, which is one of my games. However, I had nothing to do with the making of this game, nor do I make any money off it or anything like that. So I think those of you who are familiar with my reviews, my print reviews that you can find on the RPG site's review section or on my blog, or previous video reviews, should probably know by now that having an association with someone who made a book isn't really, even if it's somebody who has published one of my books, it does not guarantee a good review in the sense of it being positive for the product. So I hope you can trust that I'm going to be, straightforward and honest about it, which I will. Anyways, this is an interesting product in that Bedrock has made a number of other RPGs that are Chinese themed. This is a book that was trying to find the credits page here. I think I missed it. Here we go. There we go. It's designed by Brendan Davis. And Brendan Davis has done a number of other games that are themed along the lines of, he's a big fan, clearly, of wuxia films, and so, ancient China and that sort of thing. And his games are usually quite good on that topic, I mean. The basics of this game is that the characters are kind of investigators or opponents of supernatural horrors in a pseudo-Chinese fantasy setting. So, as you can see here, this is not an OSR game. You have instead a system where you end up having a skill-based system that provides you with a dice pool from which you roll your abilities. There's also special abilities that increase over different levels. You have classes here like the Scholar, the Wandering Sword, stuff on campaigns. So the basic mechanic, which you'll see right here, is you make a skill roll against a target number. You roll a number of d10, take the highest result. If you meet or exceed that challenge, or if you get then you succeed. And if you get a 10 result, that's a total success, which is kind of like a critical. And the DM interprets how that goes. So it's a fairly simple system. Those of you who are familiar with with my preferences in gaming know that I do not care very much for dice pools, but this is, within that context, maybe the least harmful kind of dice pool. You don't have to count successes or stuff like that, The system is also very similar to a very similar kind of game, but with a totally different setting, which was also made by Bedrock, which is called Servants of Gaius. And in that game, the characters it's set in the Roman Empire, during, I think during the time of Caligula's reign, if I'm not mistaken, because hence Gaius, which was Caligula's name. And they're a secret group in the empire that face supernatural horrors. So it's a very similar, oh, there's Big Chungus' sister. Hey. So I need you to get off the book I'm reviewing there, buddy. She's very determined to examine what's going on here. So anyway, Servants of Gaius is very similar, with one important exception, that in that case, in that product, she's not really happy about this. In that product, the setting is the actual, I mean, obviously an alt history version of the Roman Empire with a fantasy element to it. However, for whatever reason, you really have to get off this, I'm sorry. In Strange Tales of Songling, the default setting is a fantasy world that is just kind of Chinese in its elements. I guess maybe the author felt that he didn't have sufficient knowledge of ancient China as much as he might have of the Roman Empire in order to make it a purely historical fantasy setting rather than a pseudo-cultural setting. Or maybe he felt that people would be more interested in it if it was set in kind of a fantasy pseudo-China that can incorporate all kinds of different elements and not a specific dynasty in China. In either case, I kind of regret that that's the path that he took. You know, I think it would have been a lot more interesting. God damn, what are you guys doing? It would have been a lot more interesting if he had actually had the guts to do it in the real... Come on, you guys. You're just being little assholes now. If he had the guts to do it in an actual period in Chinese history and done more of an examination of the Chinese setting. But, well, that depends on one's liking. So, characters can have special abilities like, you got kung fu techniques here, the double hand strike, fist of iron, that sort of stuff. This is something that, again, Brendan Davis has touched on before. He's clearly really into both Chinese martial arts and also the Chinese supernatural. I can say, as someone who's done a lot of study on the subject too, that this is, these are things that really ring true, kind of not necessarily in the purest sense of historical China, but definitely in the sense of the wuxia genre, and it's got a very kind of authentic feel in that sense. So you get all kinds of different special powers here. This is not a very big book, I'll note. It's what is it here? About 130 pages. Okay, but it has a good amount of content for what you get. It's got a lot of details, and as you can see, everything is kind of detailed fairly short and sweet with direct effects. There's artwork scattered throughout, some of which is really interesting. And then you have a guide to running the adventures, different styles that you can put up in terms of, how you run a campaign. And then there's more detail on the specific world of Songling. The section on monsters is, of course, going to be the most impressive part. You get some, NPC types, and then you've got different creatures and demons. Again, very, very well informed by the kind of wuxia horror genre. Whether or not Brendan Davis has really looked deep into the historical China, you can tell he's looked at almost everything wuxia that you could imagine, And so it's not... It's all stuff that's going to have its own very particular style and feel. It's not going to be something that is just D&D with the numbers filed off or something like that, which is something that is sometimes accused of Arrows of Indra, even though actually Arrows of Indra is also really focused on Indian mythology. It's just that whenever I had the option to choose, I tried to pick the part of that mythology that would be the most recognizable sort of to Western perspectives. Here, the choice seems to be very clearly focused on making it very tied to the wuxia genre, and I think that works as well. It's just kind of a design choice. But I think that here, clearly, if you're playing this game, you're not looking for something that's going to be, because it's not OSR or anything, You're not looking for something that's going to be just westernized in any way, or even Western adjacent, right? You've got some really nice map making here with, this is obviously a setup of an encounter place with lots of sections and very interesting kind of scenarios. You get this also here, Heads of Waterfall Bay. I've got some pages sticking together here. This is kind of a murder mystery done in a wuxia style. Another really, really good map making. Very impressive, whoever did these. Random encounter tales. So you get a very straightforward and simple system for character creation, a very simple mechanic for combat. Added onto that, you have some of these special powers, be they kind of martial art powers or magic powers. There's probably could have been more of those, but I think that what you get is definitely enough to run with, especially with the kind of sharper focus, because there's other there are other products that Bedrock has come out in this same kind of genre that are more like, here's a gigantic fantasy world based on Asian tropes that you can do just about anything. And this is a much more specific game where what you're specifically doing is playing these kind of Chinese ghost hunters. And so you don't necessarily want or need to have as expanded a repertoire of powers and abilities. That might mean you'd have to play it to test it, but it might mean that this is a game that serves better for shorter campaigns than longer ones. But I don't want to be 100%. I don't want to say that with 100% certainty, because I can't say for sure. You get stuff for travel encounters. Again, here's a region in the Songling setting. I'm guessing maybe I'll be the exception in saying that I would have rather that this had been like set, in the Qing dynasty or the Song dynasty or the Ming dynasty or something like that in actual China. But I think for a lot of people this might seem actually preferable, because it means that they won't have to do any kind of historical backdrop, and you don't have to have the whole historical setting material stuff. Daughters of the Tea House. So there's quite a lot of very interesting adventures that you can already pre-enter. Again, fantastic map making. Some of this is kind of dungeon crawl-esque. In some ways, this is for running a type of campaign that reminds me of the Cults of Chaos campaign in my Dark Albion and Lion and Dragon product line, where you've got a campaign focused on being monster hunters, as it were. So the material is good. A lot of the stuff that you can use, the creatures and whatnot, are incorporated into these adventures, but then you can kind of reapply them in other ways. Here's at the very back you have stock charts of sample NPCs. The character sheet, of course, as you can see, it's quite simple. The points indicate the base of how many dice you'll roll, and that's basically the product. So, if you're looking for a horror RPG inspired by Chinese ghost stories, I think that this is, I have had Servants of Gaius for a long time, because I got a review copy of that years ago, and I was really impressed with how detailed it was. This is a little bit of a different product, because in that one it went into a lot of emphasis on the Roman Empire. So if you're looking for something that's purely historical, this is not going to match up necessarily to Servants of Gaius or to Arrows of Indra. In Arrows of Indra, of course, being based on not exactly history, but the legendary epic history of the Indian subcontinent. But if what you want is something that's like wuxia horror action, I think this is going to be an excellent product for you to look into. It's got pretty much everything you need at the base of the system, and a lot of inspirational material for you to move on from there. Apparently $24.99 USD. And again, the layout is really good. The art, as you've seen, is quite impressive. And it's generally a very interesting product. Of course, if you're an OSR fanatic, this is not an OSR game. If you don't like dice pools, then you might struggle a little with it. Though, like I say again, because it's small dice pools and you just pick the top roll, it's not as bad as some other dice pool systems. I think in general, you'll find this a good product if this is the specific sort of genre that you are looking for. So I guess that's everything for today. If you like this sort of stuff, well, if you've got a product, an RPG product, and you want to send me a copy for me to review, then by all means, please do so. Get in touch with me, and I will be glad to do a video review of it. If you like this video, then be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to check out the other videos on my stream. And if you think that other people would be interested, then please share this video on your social media. All of that is a big help to me. It's also a big help if you pick up my products, be it my books like Arrows of Indra or my PDF series like the... Oh, here's Big Chungus again. Big Chungus saying goodbye to all of you. My RPG Pundit Presents series. We are up to 99 issues of RPG Pundit Presents, and any one of those are products that cost anywhere from $1.99 to $4.99. And they're full of material that you can use in your D&D, fantasy RPG, OSR, or other products, ranging from medieval authentic stuff to kind of weird space fantasy like Gonzo stuff. We're about to come out with, as of this video, it has not yet been released, but you never know. It's coming pretty soon, I think. By next week, I expect. RPG Pundit Presents number 100, which is Space Adventure, which is going to be a very special edition. It's going to be a complete space opera style OSR RPG based on the same mechanics as Lion and Dragon, but for space opera adventures in the kind of 70s style of space opera. And I really hope that you guys will enjoy that. So if you want me to keep doing what I'm doing, to make more videos, to do more live streams and all of that sort of thing, then please support me with your purchases. And I do have also a PayPal and a Patreon, and if you really just want to throw money at me, that's great. But I like the idea of promoting the RPG Pundit Presents series or my books, because that way you get something out of the transaction as well. Mainly though, just keep watching, subscribe, and share the videos. And again, this is a review of Strange Tales of Songling, which you can pick up from Bedrock Games. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that they probably have this book on Amazon. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I would suspect so, because I know that they've done that with Arrows of Indra. And you can also obviously pick it up on DriveThruRPG, probably on PDF as well as print. So check it out. Currently smoking, Ben Wade, Canadian, plus Image Latakia.